Square Enix invited me and allowed me to play Final Fantasy XVI early during the recent media tour event, and there's a few things to talk about. As you know, I've done deep dives into combat, leveling, icon v icons, and many more that are yet to come out. However, one of the big things that I feel we do need to talk about right now is the, just in general, dark nature and the dark theme of the game. And no, I'm not talking about how the footage itself looks dark right now. What I will say as well is we were not allowed to capture directly at the media tour event. We were given footage by Square Enix to use for videos and stuff like that. And what I will say as well is there are some cutscenes removed that we got to see but are not in these videos. So some of the things I'm going to talk about here, I unfortunately can't actually show you. However, we are allowed to talk about it. Now, when Final Fantasy XVI was first announced, we knew it was going to be an R18 mature rating, which is a first for Final Fantasy. Normally they try and keep the age ratings down just so, you know, they can get it to sell easier and so on and so forth, and it's just less hassle on the production side, basically. It's not an uncommon tactic. Lots of companies try and do this. So what they do instead is they throw in the dark themes in Final Fantasy and make them a little bit more subtle. You only have to look at things like Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy IX for this. Because in 6 you've got things like Kafka just casually poisoning a whole village for, you know, just some giggles basically. And then FF9 you've got genocide on a mass scale, war, loneliness, depression. It's like 9 really does delve into the emotions of things when it comes to, you know, war-torn states and things like that. So Final Fantasy as a whole is not new to dark themes. What it is new to, though, however, is bringing them to the forefront. Normally, they are kept subtle and in the background just so they can keep the age rating lower. So when Final Fantasy XVI was first announced to be an R18 game, a lot of us all thought the same. Okay, it's going to have a sex scene, but is that actually the case? Now, I don't know if there's going to be a sex scene in the game or not. I honestly don't know about that. However, one of the things that we do know is how gory and grim the game will actually be. Now, this is something that Naoki Yoshida, the game producer and director, otherwise known as Yoshi P, has tried to do in Final Fantasy XIV in the Shadowbringers expansion, for example. However, they still wanted to keep the age rating lower, so they couldn't really go all out, to the dismay of the writing team. This time, however, that limit is now completely removed. So from what I actually got to experience at the event is there is going to be a lot of blood shown. Okay, now you can see a little bit of that in the footage that we have available to use, but in general, it is actually going to be a lot darker than we initially thought. And once again, I'm not on about the lighting. I don't know why the video footage was so dark. It was not this dark when I actually got to sit down and play myself. Could simply be due to, you know, a different TV, or it could also be done by different settings from the person who actually recorded the footage. So, with it actually being a lot darker than we initially thought, let's talk about how and why that is the case. So, again, we don't know if there's going to be a sex scene, so we're going to completely ignore that, okay? What we are going to talk about, though, is the violence, the blood, the gore, you know, just the general genocide that is going to happen in this game. Now, we know from the first trailer that genocide happens on a massive, massive scale. Clive, the main character, he loses his entire kingdom. It is wiped out by the icon Ifrit and just completely destroyed. So all those lives lost entirely. What we also know from trailers and from this gameplay footage is there's going to be a lot of blood. They are not hiding the amount of blood with this game. Now, during some of the cutscenes that we got to see during the event, which unfortunately we don't have footage of, there is going to be a lot of blood all over characters, okay? You're going to have blood on your armor, you're going to have blood on your sword. During cutscenes, you're going to have blood on your face. And this is high detail, like a lot of work went into making this blood look realistic as well, okay? You beat a boss and you see just blood coming out of their eyes, you see blood coming out of their mouth. It's really, really showing off the impact of the damage that you have done to, you know, the person in question. And likewise, the reverse is true for Clive. You know, after maybe a cutscene or something like that where Clive gets absolutely mauled, you will see him bleeding out. Likewise, during the Icon v Icon fights, you literally have your arm ripped off as you are controlling Ifrit. Your arm is literally severed. And then you watch it regrow in vivid detail, literally. Like, it starts with the bone, then you see the tendons and the flesh and the veins all regrowing. And while that might put, you know, some of the more squirmy people off, I don't think it's actually over the top. The way they've done it is not as full on as a horror gore game, but more is a slight realism effect, you know, slightly more realistic. Yes, the game is still a fantasy game, but it does also have that level of realism. If you stab somebody, you know, or you slash them with your sword, they are going to bleed and there is going to be blood spray. And that does translate in game, even in just the general combat as well. Clive will end up covered in blood, and not only his blood, but the blood of his enemies as well. And as I said, they are not squeamish about doing this. So straight off the bat, we've got genocide in the game, which we knew from trailers. We knew that was going to be a thing anyway. But let's talk a little bit more about some of the more darker undertones. Firstly, they are not squeamish about strong language. We pretty much know that they are going this direction with the 7 remake with Barrett. Basically, you know, they are no longer trying to hide it behind weird symbols like in the original 7. They are using stronger language now, and that is definitely the same case in 16. Only it's a little more prominent and pronounced. But again, that is simply due to the fact the gameplay that we were experiencing is a very emotional and tense section of the story, so it's understandable that emotions would flare during that and strong language would flow normally. But then I think one of the big things as well when it comes to the dark theme is actually something that we saw happen to Torgal during the Benedicta boss battle. Now again, this could change in the actual release, we don't know, as this was an early media build just for media to experience. But one of the things that happens is Clive is getting absolutely wrecked by Benedicta, and Torgal comes in to try and save the day. Now, Benedicta notices Torgal and quite literally just rips him a new one, basically, bats him off to the side like an annoying fly. Now, a lot of people love dogs, you know? It is done in such a vivid way that even though I personally didn't have a lot of time to get connected with Torgal, I don't know about the meeting or anything like that, I only basically got to experience the section that we were playing. But even with that, I felt bad for Torgal, you know? You've got this companion dog and he's just getting clawed by some giant talons. Like, it looks pretty bad, to be fair, and you can't help but feel bad for the dog. But again, that's not so much dark as it is trying to create a sense of worry, you know? It's bringing emotion to Clive, which is what the story is all about here. It is about Clive's anger, his sorrow, his depression, his goal for revenge, okay? He is going to go through some extraordinarily dark things. From the loss of his kingdom, the loss and murder of his brother Joshua, his friends dying one after the other, all the blood that he's going to get covered in, the mass murder on huge scales. Now, as I said, watching the trailers before I got to play the game, I did not believe that the game was going to be all that mature. I didn't think the R18 rating was actually going to be worth it, you know? I thought, yeah, a little bit of blood here or there, maybe a sex scene. That's what I thought. Other than that, it was just going to be, you know, the subtle darkness that Final Fantasy is used to in the background. But that is not the case, okay? That is absolutely not the case. As I said, though, unfortunately, we were not allowed to record ourselves. We were given footage by Square Enix to use. So there were things that I experienced which I cannot show. And unfortunately, that is making this video in particular extremely difficult to actually do. Because I can't show off the true nature of the blood. I can't show off the vivid detail of people bleeding, or where Clive ends up with blood on his armor, blood just trickling down his sword. You know, it's one of those things that, yes, we can talk about, but unfortunately a picture paints 1,000 words, and I don't have many pictures to actually show you guys for this. But if you are like me, where you saw the trailers and you were thinking, how are they going to make this game dark? Well, lots of murder, loads and loads of murder, probably some nudity. There is probably going to be some nudity. I think we can all accept that at this point. There is a huge amount of blood and gore. Okay, you are literally looking at limbs being ripped off. Okay, that is the kind of vivid detail. But again, it's not over the top like horror games, but it does show it in explicit detail. Okay. And then we also have the darker undertones of human emotion. Clive is going to go through a strong series of powerful emotions like depression, sorrow, loss, you know, and he is not going to be able to catch a break because he is on a mad quest for revenge. And obviously he has the anger issues and he can't control Ifrit. That means there may be a chance he himself hurt somebody he cares about. You know, and that is going to add to his sorrow, his depression, his anger. He's going to be angry at himself and he's going to vent, you know. And this is why I am actually really excited for just what they actually do with, you know, Clive's story itself. It's going to be dark. We know that. I saw enough of that when I actually got to play the game. It is going to be quite grim and quite dark. Unfortunately, some of the best cutscenes that I saw, I can't show you. So I'm afraid to say on that note, you are unfortunately just going to have to take my word for it until maybe Square will release a demo, or until the game actually comes out. Or maybe they'll release more information. We don't know. Probably not that last one, just because it is only a few months away till launch right now. So I don't think we're really going to get many more things released from them. But hey, at the very least, it's not that long away until release now. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you have any questions whatsoever, then feel free to drop them down below, and I will get an answer to you as soon as I can. As always, though, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, then please be sure to smash that like button. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. As always, though, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.